learning target is I can solve problems involving arrays and area. Your success criteria is I will know I am successful when I can find the area of shapes by counting square units. Let's think about what we know. In front of you, you know this is an array of squares. And you also know this array has 2 rows, a purple row and an orange row, and 10 columns. And therefore, we know that there are 2 groups of 10. There's 10 purple and 10 red, and I can write a repeated addition equation, and that makes 20 squares. But look at this array. I can look at this array, and I can see that it has 2 rows and 2 columns. But how is this array different than the last array you saw? Well, this array has the squares tightly packed, so there is no space in between them. So we can still see there are 2 rows and 6 columns, and we can write a repeated addition equation just like we did before. There's 1 row of 6 and 1 row of 6, so that makes 2 rows of 6 and 12 squares. But I could just as easily count them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So I have 2 strategies where I can figure out how many total squares. But it's critical to note that there are no spaces in between the squares. So what is area? Because our learning target is to find the area of shapes. Well, area is the space inside of a 2-dimensional shape. And 2-dimensional just means it's a flat shape. It's not a cube. It doesn't take up space. So rather than having a cube, we'd have a square that's 2-dimensional. And we've learned that before. So this rectangle has 3 rows, and it has 6 columns. And I can write a repeated addition equation. There's 6 here, and 6 here, and 6 plus 6 plus 6 is 18. But since I'm finding area, I need to use square units. These are square units, and I don't know if these are inch tiles or centimeter tiles or foot tiles like on my kitchen floor, but I do know that they are square units, and I am not measuring the outside of this circle. I'm not measuring this line to see how long this rectangle is or how wide it is. What I am doing is counting the squares. So I could just as easily have counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And if you counted them, you'd see there's 18 squares. So here's one for you. Pause the video quickly. Figure out how many rows, how many columns, and then write a repeated addition equation to count the square units, or count the squares. All right, how did you do? Well, let's see. This has 4 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it has 3 columns, 1, 2, 3. And so there are 4 groups, 1, 2, 3, 4 of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, there's 4 groups of 3, excuse me. There's 4 groups of 3 because there's 3 in the top row, 3 in this next row, 3 in this row and this row, 3 in that row. So that gives me 12 square units. All right, let's think about this a different way. I know the area of this square is 9 square units. Remember, area is measured in square units. Very important. I am not measuring the outside. I'm not seeing how long this square is. So I know that I can count the squares. I could write a repeated addition equation, 3 plus 3 plus 3, or I can just count the squares. And that's important because not all shapes are squares or rectangles. Sometimes we have these odd shapes, and the only way to find the area is to count the square units, is to count the tiles. So if I counted these tiles, I'd get 1, 2, 3, and you can see the numbers. And how many tiles are there in this odd-looking shape? 15. And in real life, if you think about your kitchen or your yard, it's probably not a nice little square or rectangle. It's probably got a couple little odd spaces. And so in real life, we do have odd spaces that are not just squares and rectangles. So let's do one last one. I want you to pause the video and I want you to figure out what is the area of this garden. This is a top view of my garden in my backyard. Notice it's not a rectangle. So pause the video. Okay, what did you come up with? Well, let's count them together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The area is 11 square units. Now you know how to find the area of shapes. Your success criteria was I will know I am successful when I can find the area of shapes by counting square units. Now it's your turn. In your independent practice, you can use any strategy you like. If it's a square or rectangle, you may use repeated addition equations, or you can simply count the square tiles. Remember though, if you're finding the area of a shape, you must put square units. Have fun.